Let's begin our top story then. Middle East is seeing more escalation. Israel bombarded Lebanon, and this has been one of the most intense of bombardments that have been seen since the start of the war in 2023. Over 500 were killed, including at least 50 children, and many more injured as Israeli military targeted Hezbollah. And Israel is seemingly jubilant about the offensive against Hezbollah. The country's defense minister, who did not really hold back his praise after these airstrikes, said, and I quote, "Today was a masterpiece. This was the worst week Hezbollah has had since its establishment. The results speak for themselves," unquote. Now, Israel believes that a ferocious offensive will coerce Hezbollah into doing what it wants, inflicting so much pain that the leader and its backers in Iran decide that the price of resistance is perhaps too high. The Israeli Prime Minister also said, and I quote, that it will change the balance of power. He was, of course, referring to these strikes. And Lebanon is calling this as Israeli aggression. And that's why many are fearing that this could just be the beginning of the prospect of a war that's looming large. So the question is, will Israel's escalatory strategy backfire, and is a wider war now imminent? I'm now joined by Ashok Sajjanar, the former ambassador, to discuss this further. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. How devastating are these latest attacks, and could this conflict now boomerang, although Israel says that it is trying to control the war that it is playing out the way it is now, but could this escalate into a wider conflict now?
Thank you very much, Smita, for having me. Yes, you're right. I think there is a very real possibility that it could expand into a much bigger conflict than it has been so far. Although I don't think that that is what Israel wants. That's definitely not what the United States wants. That's not what the regional countries want. So none of the countries really wants it. But I think, what Israel says has been happening is that from October 8th onwards, Hezbollah has been firing, has been sending missiles, rockets, drones on the northern part of Israel, leading to displacement of more than 100,000 people. They have been moved southwards, and they have been living there for close to more than 11 months, close to 1 year. So they feel that this is the only way to silence the attacks from Hezbollah, and they are attacking the leadership of Hezbollah. Much of the leadership of Hezbollah has already been liquidated. They are also shooting down places where there is a storage of missiles, of drones, of rockets, and all the other munition of this nature. And this seems to be Israel's calculation that, such a strong attack will unnerve Hezbollah, and they'll be forced to
will annihilate. Yes.
Yes. Forced to pull back. But
yes, but Ambassador, Israel's war machinery,
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
But Ambassador, Israel's war machinery definitely seems to be in an overdrive, like you're stating that they want to eliminate the Hezbollah, and of course perhaps, as you're stating, bring an end to the war. But don't these comments that are coming from Israel's leadership, the defense minister, and of course Benjamin Netanyahu, don't they reek of desperation, perhaps, given that the country desperately needs a victory almost after a year of war?
Yeah, they do need a victory. So I think for their own people, for themselves, politically also, they need a victory. And maybe they are, sensing that there would be some possibility in Lebanon. Although everyone has been saying that, in Lebanon, Hezbollah is much better armed. They have hundreds of thousands of rockets that they can fire, that they can really cause enormous damage and destruction to Israel. And they have the capacity to reach even southern parts of Israel. So, when people tend to compare Hezbollah and Hamas, they said Hamas was a much smaller organization. And even that, after about a year or so, Israel has not really been able to completely wipe out the top leadership of Hamas. So it'll be that much more difficult when they are dealing with the Hezbollah. But I would imagine, Mossad is a professional spy agency. I'm sure the IDF and the Israeli political leadership, they have done their own calculations, they have done their own assessments, and only after that they have gone in. I think there is possibly, of course, the pressure is on Israel from the United States and from the other regional players that a ceasefire with Hamas should be brought in.
Right.
But Israel, I think,
Yes,
feels
and we'll
reasonably.
touch upon that. We'll touch upon that very important point, Ambassador Sajjan Har. Let me ask you. Let me take you back to what Benjamin Netanyahu said. That he said that it will, the latest aggression, the latest, charge that Israel has taken so far as Hezbollah and Lebanon is concerned, it will change the balance of power. I want to get your thoughts on whether attack is the new defense, and is this then the new normal in this war that's been going on for more than a year?
Yeah, a little less than a year. In fact, more than a year would be on 7th October, really, that it will cover a year. But yes, you're right. I think what Israel wants to do and what Netanyahu wants to do is to get these preemptive strikes, because they say that their intelligence tells them that Hezbollah was preparing for a major strike, Hamas-like strike, what they did on 7th of October, that they are planning for that. And so they wanted to, completely destroy all that possibility, wipe out completely their preparations and their arrangements. And that is why, if they had waited, then the damage to Israel and to the people of the country would have been extremely bad and worse for them. So they are taking preemptive action and destroying all the Hezbollah holdouts and strongholds that are there in the south of Lebanon. And they don't want to hurt the civilians. And that is why Netanyahu had said that the civilians should move back, because the civilians are really being used as human shields by the Hezbollah. And it is not their intent
Shields,
to
yes.
harm or hurt the
Yes.
civilians.
Yes. Yes, Ambassador, let's also touch upon the point that you made about peace deal negotiations that really haven't borne fruit yet. Is there intent then on the part of the United States and, of course, Arab nations to actively coax both sides to reach a deal? Because we are only seeing a defined Benjamin Netanyahu, despite the fact that Biden has criticized Israel as well on several occasions.
No, you're right. And you would have seen that at the UNG also, when President Biden was speaking, he did speak about, the possibility of coming to a peace deal. And I think peace deal is very important for the Democrats, for the Biden government in the United States, because we have the elections happening on the 5th of November. So just about 40 days or so to go from now. And, peace deal would definitely be very helpful and very beneficial as far as the Democrat candidate is concerned. So they've been trying very hard, and I'm sure they'll continue to try very hard right up to the last minute. And I'm hopeful, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, I think Biden can apply that sort of pressure on Netanyahu to have a ceasefire. But I would imagine that Netanyahu also knowing what the... Sorry.
Right, but that hasn't really worked. That hasn't really worked, Ambassador, till now, because he has, like I said, on several occasions said and, of course, and mentioned about a peace deal, that it is really the need of the hour. We've seen the Prime Minister of India as well. And, of course, several nations condemn. But Netanyahu again goes on to make the kind of comments that he did today, expecting, no further retaliation. Let me once again go to the comments of Israeli Defense Minister. He says that Israel believes that a ferocious offensive will coerce Hezbollah into doing what it wants. They have to decide, Iran has to decide that the price of resistance is too high. And they are expecting a de-escalation from Israel's escalation. But is that assumption perhaps misplaced?
Yeah, that's on the face of it, that's what it looks like. But, as we have seen the charts that have been put out, we've seen that barring the two top leaders, much of the other leadership of Hezbollah has been liquidated, has been killed by the Israeli attacks. And even yesterday, we saw on Monday, when the attacks were launched by Israel. They said, one of the top commanders had been killed in those attacks. So maybe they are thinking that if the top leadership goes, then the stomach and the energy in Hezbollah to continue the fight would have gone. If you permit, Sumita, I'll just like to make one comment on the ceasefire, and that is basically that maybe what Netanyahu knows is that the deadline is the US presidential elections. So he feels he has possibility, he has opportunity up to that to inflict whatever damage that he can, whether it is in Gaza or it is in Lebanon. And, because before the 5th of November, someday, maybe a week or 10 days before that, he could agree to a ceasefire at that time, which would give, a positive benefit as far as the Democrats are concerned. So, and he would have got whatever advantage he has to get in terms of pounding very ferociously on the Hezbollah positions here and on the Hamas positions in Gaza. Sumita.
Valid point, Ambassador Sajjanar. A very interesting point indeed. We'll have to see how that plays out in the run-up to the elections. You're stating that a peace deal could be arrived at just before, a few days before the US presidential elections are to happen. On that note, thank you very much once again for joining us this evening on ET Now and sharing your thoughts on that very crucial story, so that Middle East conflict really escalating. But all eyes now on that peace deal, and we do hope that United States is able to put enough pressure on Israel to sit on a common table and, of course, work out solutions, work out some peaceful solutions, and of course that will lead to possibly the end of this war.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.